Hello and welcome to the latest Robin Pod, which is of course powered by 𝗪𝗁𝗲𝗂𝗔𝗂𝗧 Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. On this week's Robin Pod, I'm delighted to be joined by a podcast regular, James Purling, as he joins me to help look back at our defeat to the Sheffield Eagles in our first game of 2024. We've got Man Rhys join us from the Leeds Rhinos Lot Pod as he helps us preview Sunday's game against the Leeds Rhinos, and we round up all the latest news from Hull Kingston Rovers. James, it's a belated Happy New Year. How are you doing? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, thanks for having me back on. It's counting down now to the new season, getting excited. So, yeah. Looking forward to it.
Christmas, New Year seems a long way, a long time ago, doesn't it? And we're getting back into the thick and fast of rugby league. I mean,
the longest January ever as well.
Financially more than anything, it's an absolute killer, isn't it? Let alone the fact that Rovers keep bringing out new gear all the time. So it does hit you in the wallet, doesn't it? Let alone the fact you've just had Christmas and New Year. James, I mean, we'll just start off with your expectations for 2024. And obviously we had a great 2023. We was close, but I suppose not close enough to lift something. But going into the new season, what are your expectations?
Oh, God. I think the thing is that after last season, I think the expectations been raised at quite a significant notch. I think, this time last year when we were looking about where we thought we'd be, I think we thought, get to the playoffs, we'll be sign of progress, 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝗏𝗂𝗧's first season. But I think, last season, clearly I think we exceeded most people's expectations, even most of the most of the Rovers fans. So I think my expectations for this season are, I think, given the quality of players we've got brought into the club, I think, we've got to see some sign, further step on in progress. So I think minimum is fourth again. But realistically, I think we need to be pushing for third or second. And then as for a knockout cup, I think realistically, we've got to be aiming for the right what happened last August.
Yeah, and James, just listening to what you just said, right, and this is the mindset that we've thankfully, I think, got out of. Can you believe your expectations are what they are? And I'm not saying your expectations are outrageous, but what I mean is the fact that we're talking about a minimum top four place. We're talking about Challenge Cup final. We're talking about lifting silver as an expectation, not as a dream. We're almost, and I think that's helped. We talked about it so much in the last podcast, what the expectations and actually as supporters, how we need to grow as the club's growing and expect more and demand more, and obviously that increases pressure. But it's for a long time it's uncharted territory, isn't it, to be talking about what we hope and what we expect.
It is, and it's just I'm old enough to have been around in the 80s, when it was this same level of expectation. It was sort of you'd be pushing to be league champions, you'd be pushing for cups, and obviously at the time then there was more available, so you'd be pushing for those, and the expectation was we'd win at least one of them a year. And now, because of the progress we're seeing on the pitch, off the pitch, just really feel good factor around the club. As I said, the quality of the players that we're bringing in, the likes of Tyrone May and Gildart and Hiku, a few years ago we'd never dreamed of being able to have those sort of players within the squad. But now, even we're now talking about who we're potentially bringing in for next season. The likes of Tom Davis, etc. It has the mindset has completely changed, and it's great. But we just, we need to be, I think, to cement our position as getting to be a quality team, and not justifying that grade A IMG rating, but just say, look, we're a club on the up, but we need to be getting silverware and progressing on the pitch as well. And that's why I think the expectation is a playoff, at least, getting to at least second or third.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about Davis. You mentioned him. We'll come on to that later because it was very interesting to see what 𝗬𝗲𝗂𝗧 had to say earlier about Tom Davis and potentially recruitment for 2025. But I tell you what, James, let's start with our first pre-season fixture of 2024. We're only playing 2 friendlies. Of course, we played against the Sheffield Eagles at Craven Park on Sunday. We've got the Leeds Rhinos up next. Like I've already mentioned, we're going to preview that later on in the podcast. We're very fortunate to have Man Rhys from the Lot Pod joining us later on to help preview that. It'd be good to get his thoughts as well on, as a neutral, on Hull Kingston Rovers prospects and to hear more about maybe one of our challengers who could be the Leeds Rhinos this season. James, pre-season friendlies, they're funny, aren't they? I mean, I'd love to go through the science of them because it must be so hard for a head coach to prepare for them and for the players as well to because it's not like football, is it, where you can have a pre-season friendly and sort of go through the motions and still play a game. Rugby league is a game where if you don't go at full tilt, you risk injuring yourself, you risk injuring the opponent. You know. That said, players don't want to get injured, do they? Because they want to be there for when the season starts. So we saw a youthful lineup. You know, it was a mixture of reserve grade academy players. We did see a smattering of first team players, and I'll read some of 𝗬𝗂𝗧's comments out a little bit later on because it's interesting now about why them first team players were playing, and why them in particular. But when you saw the squad and you saw the lineup, James, I mean, they still had, you know, there was still a bit of quality there. There was interest from me because I was really interested, James, to see how some of these young players who have come through the academy setup, you know, the much heralded academy setup, Jason Everton doing a fantastic job there. I just wanted to see them out in the first team setting and see how they did. And I tell you what, James, I think they did all right.
I thought they did all right as well. I think, you know, I think when I saw the squads before the game, and I thought, you know, looked at the Rovers one, looked at the Sheffield one, I thought, looked at the Sheffield one, you know, it's full of some really, you know, sort of good, solid players, you know, have been around for a while, got some good up and coming players in there. Obviously, they did well last season in the championship to get to the playoff. And I looked at the Rovers squad and I thought, God, it's going to be a tough afternoon. But you know, at the end of the day, it's a friendly. It's a pre-season friendly. It's blowing the cobwebs away. There's no expectation on the outcome, etc. The key thing is that, you know, no players from either team get injured, get a long-term injury, and that, you know, that's the ultimate thing that you want, you know, as an outcome from a friendly. But I think, I thought they had a really good go. I thought, you know, a bit worried about after the first, you know, 15 minutes or so, when we were 10-0 down and we hadn't even got our own half, I don't think. But, you know, to fair to the kids, young kids, they got, you know, the knuckle down. And, you know, defensively, I thought we were fine. You know, a couple of little blips, you know, that in the first try to Ben John Bishop. But now they really got into it, and I thought they played really, really well and some really good, strong performances. And I thought, you know, 𝗬𝗂𝗀𝗏 at the back, I thought he looks a, you know, top player. I thought, you know, impressed with Tennyson when he came on. It was great to see them and thinking, actually, yeah, the stuff that, you know, Jason Netherson and the team are doing with the academy, you know, and where we need to be going in the years to come and bringing in our own, you know, players from the academy, you know, we're going in the right direction. And again, it's another positive thing that's happening around the whole club. You know, we can see progress in that area, which is, you know, an area that, you know, in the past, you know, we've not had that luxury. But now you look at someone like Zach Fishwick, you know, he almost feels like a veteran. And he's only 18.
Yes.
You know, when you're sort of seeing that sort of thing, you're just thinking, yeah, that's how far we've progressed as a club.
Yeah. I mean, you was worried. I tell you what, James, I was worried after the first, I think, about 15 seconds when I saw Sheffield racing through. And if it wasn't for the forward pass, I mean, Sheffield must have been absolutely, you know, I didn't have the angle to see whether it was forward or not. I mean, it was a get out of jail for Rovers, wasn't it? You know, but, you know, it is tough to get a side together. If you go through that 13, you had 𝗬𝗂𝗀𝗏 at fullback, Louis Senior on the wing, Harvey Moore, Conor Barley at centre, Neil 𝗕𝘂𝗱𝗴𝗏 on the wing, Phoenix, Leulai Tuhai, and then Lenny Ellis in the halves. Yusuf Aydin lining up at prop, Rhys Butterworth at hooker, George King in the props, Corey Hall, second row, AJ Wallace, second row, and Matty Staunton at loose forward. So there was enough experience then. And this was a Sheffield side who'd gone well in the Championship last season. You know, a lot of seasoned professionals in there. Great to see Chris Wellham back out on the pitch, and he got a warm welcome from the East Stand. You know, never forget his contribution to the red and white of Hull Kingston Rovers. And then you go through the list of substitutes. Obviously, it's a long line of interchanges. Zach Fishwick, great to see his brother Barney Fishwick on the bench along with him, Leo Tennyson, Harvey Horn. You know, a long list. And what surprised me, James, is actually, although the Robins got off to a slow start, it was when George King and Matty Staunton went off that the actual comeback in inverted commas came on, and we got back into the game when two season pros. And I'm just going to come to this quote that Willie Peters, I've only seen it today, and he was questioned about the lineup for the Leeds Rhinos game and why some of the senior pros played against Sheffield. Willie Peters has said, there are some players, and I won't name players, that have had really strong pre-seasons who play today, and others who haven't had strong pre-seasons that play today. That's why some players played, because they need to prove themselves in games that haven't proven themselves in pre-season. It was an opportunity for them to prove themselves in a game. So if you look through that list of senior pros, James, you'd imagine Matty Staunton, AJ Wallace, Corey Hall, George King, Yusuf Aydin, maybe PLT at a push, are probably the ones who have either impressed or not impressed Willie Peters, which is why they're lined up. And to be fair to them, I think they all stood up and they all put a good shift in. The one you couldn't pick anyone out to say that they definitely didn't put a shift in, which puts them in the, I suppose, in the frame to probably play against Leeds, maybe. But it's going to be tough, isn't it? Competition for places is hot.
Yeah, it is, and I think I read those comments as well today, and I was quite, I was quite surprised because I think before the game we're thinking, why is he playing King? Why is he playing Staunton? And just, like I said, just a smattering of things. It's more. Was it about these sort of players who perhaps just need a bit more, runnings in the legs to sort of get them going, etc. But I think it also just shows again probably the change in attitude that Peters have brought to the team. Basically, if you're not performing, you're not in. Yeah. And I think whoever you are, and obviously, the likes of King, Staunton, you'd probably sort of put those down as guaranteed first teamers on the basis of what we saw last season. Aydin probably more on this sort of on the periphery, and AJ Wallace obviously wanting to sort of prove himself. But they've all got they've got squad numbers, so they affected the first team. And it's just saying, look, if you don't knuckle down, you don't put the effort in. And there's plenty of other guys in the squad who will bust their gut to get your place in the team.
Yeah, it is like the $1 million question, isn't it? When you look at them senior pros, which ones aren't performing in pre-season? Because George King, well, maybe Corey Hall, I think he's already been talked about how well he's done in pre-season, and his versatility has been tested, which is why he lined up in the second row. Matty Staunton, I mean, don't forget last pre-season, there was Matty Staunton. I think he got a few question marks put over him by Willie Peters in terms of how he performed, and obviously he came back during the season and he became a stalwart of the side, but he needed a bit of a kick up the backside. So it'd be interesting. AJ Wallace, I thought he went very well. I thought he looked very strong. Very solid. There was some big runs, some big tackles. He looked very much like he was putting his name in the frame to be in that starting lineup. Of course, there's people in front of him. So he is fighting for that position. Interesting, there's a question from Bazza. What's your thoughts on PLT? Do you think he's had enough chances now? He's a funny player, isn't he, James? Because he sort of falls in between a few positions, but doesn't quite nail himself into any one of them positions. Although I do think there's undoubted talent there, it is hard to stake a claim for him to start, let alone see where his future might be for Old Kingston Rovers in next season or the season after that.
Yeah, it does. I think, like you say, I think he came as a fullback, and he's been sort of played a few times in the halves when he's been in the first team. You have to think, would he get in the fullback spot this season? We've got 𝗂𝗂𝗽𝗂𝗀𝗏, we've got 𝗬𝘆, could potentially slot in there. I think the way Louis Gorman played on Sunday, you'd say, well, actually, yeah, he'd put in a shout for your full back. So then it says, well, would you put PLT in the halves then? And maybe the thinking behind his selection in the halfbacks on Sunday from Peters was, look, I've got Lewis and May as my first choice. Obviously, Abdul's been shipped out. We know there's a vacancy there for a backup half. We are actively looking in the market, but hey, Phoenix, here's an opportunity for you to go out there and show me what you can do in the halfback position. And to be honest, I don't think he's sort of played as well as he perhaps could do. Certainly, there's the talent there, and I think you could tell as well. He's probably getting a bit frustrated with things. I think there's a couple of times where he didn't make touch with with penalties. And it's almost thinking it probably is probably the sort of player that probably needs a run in a team. So I just wonder whether the view might be he goes out on loan somewhere for a period to give him some confidence and actually get that regularity of playing. Worked well with Mikey Lewis, didn't he, when he went to York? And look how sort of he, it's basically brought his talent, developed his talent, and you'd have to say, well, for Mikey to go out to likes of Newcastle and York on loan, it did him a world of good. Could be the same for PLT.
Yeah, and he's still a very young player as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because
no. Not writing him off. You're just saying he probably needs that experience and that continuity of game time. Because he's not getting the reserve grade, is he? He's not really getting the reserve grade because that's so hit and miss at the moment.
No, I mean, Keith Pollard, great to see you on watching on YouTube, Keith. What chances has he had? He joined the club as a fullback. He's never had a run in that position. To me, whenever he got on, he never let the club down. And I'll probably echo that. He hadn't let the club down, but I suppose that's the minimum. It's about what you do above that. And yeah, we'll see where his chance comes. And James, I think I agree with you. I think a season at a team in the Championship potentially, bossing players around at a young age, senior pros in a Championship side, learning I think that's maybe where his chance is. And Louis Gorman, I mean, got high praise from Willie Peters. Like you say, that fullback position is actually maybe being covered by, I mean, you've got 𝗂𝗂𝗽𝗂𝗀 in the first team, Niall 𝗬𝘆. Willie Peters has talked fondly of him playing at fullback. You've now got Louis Gorman, who's staked a claim to be that backup player. Willie Peters not as adverse at the moment to moving players around. Louis Gorman, it's not his natural position, fullback. But I tell you what, 2 tries, 4 kicks from 4 from 4 in terms of goals, and he looked assured. He looked every bit one of the first team players playing. He didn't take a backward step, and he seemed to just have a bit of class, a bit of guile, but a bit of power as well. And he is one who got talked about as being one of the star performers against the Sheffield Eagles. And for me, he's someone who's now people have got eyes on him in terms of where his future lies at Hull Kingston Rovers. Because if you saw how he performed against the Sheffield Eagles, he performed very well.
He did. You obviously got backed up Lenny Ellis for his first try, and that second try, when he just basically brought down the Roger Millward stand side, and then going to take the fullback on here and just rounded him, and it was just sensational stuff, and like you say, it didn't look out of place, solid kicking, solid defensively, and showed a really good strong turn of pace. And like I said, you have to think he would be in the potential for that fullback spot if we end up having to sort of go further down the squad to put somebody in there.
Yeah, he's a great talent. I tell you what, I got a bit up close and not that personal with 𝗕𝗂𝗍𝗏. I tell you what, in terms of a physical presence, I know he's still young, he's still raw, but he's got size and he looks every much got the athletic prowess of a player, and you know, I can see why the Robins snapped him up from Leeds Rhinos from their academy setup. Of course, like you said, he's raw. There still seems to be, you know, lots to work on there. But if he progresses over the next few years, fills out in terms of his muscle and his pit, you know, there looks like there's a lot of potential there with him.
There does, yeah. I can't, you know, totally agree on that. I think there is you know, he's very raw, so you know, needs that experience. But you just look at his height. You know, he's got the height, and he just looks as you just felt looking at him. If he got an inch of space, he'd be off. Yeah. You know, nobody would catch him, and it's, you know, that, you know, he's got that potential for you know, for the sort of player who could get people on the feet. You know, just really excited to see you know, a player to basically burn just with sheer pace. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how he goes on. And you know, he's come from the Leeds Academy, and you know, at the end of the day, if he's come from the Leeds Academy, he's going to be, you know, everything's going to be coached. You know, he's going to be coached well. He's going to have that, you know, talent and taught the right things. So the fact that we've been able to get him, I think again just shows how far we've come on, and then not just thinking, you know, we are building for the future. Yeah,
and couple of things before we bring Man Rhys in from the Lot Pod Leeds Rhinos podcast. Corey Hall, second row, did all right in the friendly. I'm not having him in Super League playing second row.
No. I think we were talking before the game. We raised eyebrows when it went in there. It doesn't look a second rower. Like I say, he didn't do anything wrong, but you know, you can say he's never going to play Super League in second row, I think. But then saying again, I think, you know, 𝗬𝗂𝗧 said it was to broaden his experience and broaden his potential role. He's been playing there in doing that role in pre-season in training. So maybe that's where, you know, where the clubs see him going, you know, long term in the future. But he's saying that also, I think he played there for Wakefield in the second row at some stage. So yeah, I think it was an interesting selection. It was an interesting selection.
Yeah, there was a couple of sideways crabbing runs what he did where I thought,
lots of meters, but all of them sideways.
Yeah, well, he filled in. He did a job. Louis Senior, I mean, he got caught out of position very early on. You know, a few question marks on where Louis Senior fits in. You suggest with the signing of 𝗬𝗲𝗏 that Louis Senior is probably way down the pecking order. I think he's out of contract at the end of this season.
Yeah.
A player I like. I think he's got something about him. Defensively, he does just seem to offer up a bit to the opposition on too many occasions.
Yeah, I again agree with you on that one. I think he's certainly got the skills. He's got the speed. Sorry, but I think he said defensively he does. He is a bit suspect every now and again, and it's probably the sort of thing that, you know, obviously 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 isn't going to stand for, and probably that's why 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 has come in. Interestingly, you know, 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's only got a 1-year contract, so it's probably a question of what they're probably doing is saying, you know, to Senior, look, you've got a year left on your contract. Prove you're worth another one. But by the way, we signed 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, who's only on a 1-year deal, so he's got the potential to come in and be that wing spot, you know, going forward. So yeah, I think it's probably quite an important season for Senior. But then the question is, how much game time is he actually going to get? Because, you know, you got to think, well, we've got Ryan Hall on one wing, 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏's on the other, potentially 𝗀𝗆𝗆𝗏𝗏s as well slotting in. You just think, yeah, his chances are going to be very limited, and it's probably going to be again down to what happens in reserve grade. And as I said, given the ambiguous nature of the reserve grade at the moment, his chances might be few and far between. But yes, I don't like him. You know, I think you can see there's a winger there, but he just got too many, I think, brain farts defensively.
Yeah, and the last thing on the Sheffield game, credit to the Hull Kingston Rovers supporters who turned in great numbers. I mean, the club don't release attendance figures, but I reckon there's the best part of 4,000 to 4,500 there, which is great testimony to the support being offered up by Hull, Kingston and Rovers supporters, especially when it looked like the lineup. I mean, we could all predict it was probably not going to be the strongest yet. We turned out in great numbers. So credit to everybody who did pack out Craven Park on Sunday for that game. The Robins travel to Headingley on Sunday for the second pre-season friendly of the season. We take on the Leeds Rhinos in James Donaldson's testimonial. Of course, a former Robin who represented the side, the club for 4 seasons. To help us preview that fixture and look ahead to that game and talk about Super League in general and Hull Kingston Rovers and Leeds Rhinos is somebody who's been on the podcast previously. It's Man Rhys from the Lot Pod, Leeds Rhinos podcasts.
Man Rhys, gentlemen.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I noticed you're all matched up. Obviously,
well, I was impressed by your green screen background, Johno, so I felt like I had to get the brand out there myself on our side, so I had to up my game.
Yeah. You've been a very busy man. You was at the Leeds Rhinos Media Day just a couple of days ago, yesterday, in fact.
Yesterday.
In the Rhinos camp at the moment.
So it certainly feels a lot more collective this year. I think what's sort of been highlighted is a bit of a split camp last year, and I think some of the bad eggs have gone. I think you saw some of that publicly last year, mainly Blake Austin, and I fell foul of that. It was someone that I was praising. I even started doing Stone Cold Steve Austin stuff on the podcast, and then that turned very quickly, and mainly down to Austin as well. So I think that sort of toxicity was present, but the understanding from what I've seen and what I've been told, it does feel certainly much more of a collective squad this year and a much better feeling in camp. And that's what's been said by a lot of the players, not just yesterday, but throughout pre-season.
Yeah, I suppose Leeds' expectations are always high. Quite rightly, one of the biggest grounds in Super League, one of the most successful sides in Super League. I suppose, is Rowan Smith under a bit of pressure this season to deliver?
I was about to say, I think the expectation this year is bigger than normal. I think the expectation is that Rhino should always be in a final, whether that's Challenge Cup or the Grand Final. It should always be in the top 4, and never mind not in the playoffs. So last year was a big disappointment. It's now Rowan Smith's second full year. He got a 3.5 deal when he signed. The club have splashed out, $300,000 on bringing Brodie Croft and Andy Ackers. We've had bringing players in like Lackey Miller, Momorowski. So I think the expectation will be higher. But I think Rhino fans in general will have to just be patient in the first couple of rounds. Things do not click straight away. And especially when you've had such a big change in squad as well. But I think in the long run, we're certainly a better position where we have been in previous seasons.
Yeah, I don't know about you, James. When I look at Leeds over the past couple of years, there's a lot of square pegs in round holes. Rhys, do you think you've more got round pegs in round holes this year? There seems to be a bit more of the right type of player coming in to replace players who probably departed, and seems to be a bit more of the recruitment seems to be a lot better this season than in past.
The recruitment just felt quite obvious this season. It felt quite obvious to go out and go get one of the best halfbacks in Super League, and equally one of the best hookers in Super League as well, in Andy Ackers, and getting them both together was brilliant. We needed an elite centre I don't think we really replaced that role last year. Obviously, Nene did have a fairly good year with us, and the less said about him, the better. To be honest, the way that he left the club, but I don't really want to have a season where you've got Morgan Gannon playing at halfback or Rhys Martin playing at centre. You want people playing in their roles. I think we are still a bit light in some areas. In some areas, I think that benefits us. So, for example, if Lackey Miller goes down, it's going to give some academy players a chance, like 𝗪𝗪𝗔, who's got a lot of good noise about him. At centre, it gives people like Max Simpson and Jack Smith a shout, who have also been excellent in pre-season. But I think at prop, we are light at the moment. We've already lost Tom Holroyd, Kieran Hudson, Michael Goodwin's sort of a half prop because he's a prop, prop second row. So we're already sort of looking like a bit there. But one place we aren't lacking is second row. And I think actually, if anything, we've got too strong a depth at second row. You've got Rhys Martin, James McDonald, James Bentley, Morgan Gannon, and then behind that you've still got Leon Ruin. So I don't know how someone's going to have to miss out on a 17 each week in that area, and that could be quite frustrating for whoever that is. But I think that's down to Rowan to manage. So I don't think we're a complete side. I still think we're in a better position, but we are still weak in some areas. But I think there are less round or square pegs in round holes.
Yeah, I mean, me and James already mentioned about. I mean, I don't know if you've got eyes on him previously, 𝗕𝗂𝗃𝗏𝗴𝗏.
I'd seen highlights in academy, and I heard James say that if he gets the ball in his space, he's gone. And honestly, I've seen it in the academy games. Once he got the ball, he was gone. He looked incredibly quick. I think there was a degree of frustration because of those clips that we did let him leave so easily. But on the flip side, I take that as confidence that Leeds Rhinos are confident in the people they've got in the academy coming through as well. So, we've got another kid called Ned McCormack, who was an England Rugby Union under 18 cap. So there's other players in there. Jack Smith is another one as well, potentially. That's the view that I've chosen to take. But certainly from the highlights I saw, when he did get the ball, he was quick off the mark. He was soon gone down the pitch.
Yeah, and James, I mean, Leeds Rhinos, whatever your opinion about them as a club is, I mean, you've got to praise them for the amount of talent that they churn out, the amount of players they feed Super League with, whether it be, eventually, whether they leave their academy, they end up at other teams or in the Championship, then come into Super League. They've got a phenomenal production line of players, which is why players like 𝗕𝗂𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗏, whether we snatched him from Leeds or whether they felt he was surplus to requirements, whatever the circumstances, they do just churn out players and players all the time, don't they?
They do, and I think again, that's for me that's the benchmark. That's where other clubs really need to be aspiring to. And the structures that Rovers are getting in place now with their academy, they're obviously sort of seeing what Leeds are doing, the importance of bringing the young kids through and the quality that they're bringing through. But I think it's also important that they're building that culture within the whole club. So it's not it starts from the first team and then just goes to the whole club. So when players are coming in from that academy into the reserve, into the first team, they're all part of that whole system. Everyone knows what the club means. And we're building that now, I think. But like I say, Leeds, you've got to doff your cap to them for what they've done over the years and just what they brought to the game. And at the end of the day as well, they've got that production that's come through in the academy, and they've seen it come through into winning trophies as well. So
you talk about that one club vibe, James, as well, and something that Rowan Smith has brought into the Rhinos is this collective training session that they do at the big end of every year, which is PDRL, LDRL, women's scholarship, men's academy. It's everyone that puts on a Rhinos jersey comes down for a joint training session. It's about that one club vibe. And I think, if I'm right in saying, didn't say KR do something similar recently?
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen the photo that they did released at the weekend. They've got 365 players who represent the whole KR, across all, men's, women's, PDRL, netball, academy, scholarship, and it's great to see. And I think that's the future for me of where clubs need to be going. And it's not just it's about building it within the community as well.
Exactly.
So tremendously important. Really, it was really inspiring seeing that photo as well.
If I take you on one tangent, Johnny, if the next academy player that you need to look out from a Rhinos perspective, there's two. One is Jack Smith, who's been excellent in pre-season games this year, but the other one is Fergus McCormack, another player that we've stolen from England Rugby Union, which they weren't very happy with. But as a halfback, at the moment, we're saying he's a crossover between Sam Tompkins and Danny Maguire in one player. He looks incredible at only 17. So give it 4 or 5 years. I've got a feeling that if we can keep hold of him, there's definitely an unbelievable player coming in.
Well, I was just going to say, Rhys, I look forward to seeing him in the red and white of Kingston Rovers very soon.
Won't work like that. You've had 1 year at the top of the Yorkshire charts. It won't happen much longer.
Yeah, he's interesting. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned Rugby Union as well, because James 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏 was alluding to the fact in his comments again early today that we was very close to signing a winger from Rugby Union. obviously at first grade level more than academy. But it shows that the net's being cast a bit wider for all of rugby league in terms of rugby union. Of course, we've seen the financial problems that a few of their top sides have suffered from, and I suppose maybe the tide's starting to turn in terms of the talent drain from rugby league going to not only the NRL and rugby union, but potentially coming back the other way now.
Yeah, I think like I said, I think we've had obviously Dave Bishop is the one that stands out as coming from rugby union to Rovers. But yeah, I think it's sometimes unexpected areas where you can unearth the diamond, and and I think Willie Peters is probably he's got that knowledge about the game, and if he can spot something, then why not go for it? Why not go for it?
As a dual coder, not like professionally, clearly not, because I'm young and fat. But Yorkshire has a massive Yorkshire Rugby Union talent pool, and it's just not tapped into because there isn't a professional team here. I think about Hull. You've got Heimers, one of obviously the private school that's very good at rugby. You've got Hull Ionians and Hull Rugby that are all high level. I think there is I think if rugby league can, especially with the stuff that IMG have been doing and the new branding and that everything's coming through, if it can market itself correctly, you could see more players coming across.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, just my eldest, he plays rugby league and rugby union. The sport does coexist. It does coexist, and both codes have got to look at that as being a positive, because ultimately a player will decide which way they go, but expose them to as much rugby as possible at an early age, before they get into the nuances of scrummaging and line out, rugby, the real specific rules, but exposing kids to rugby as much as possible. Who knows where that could go. Rhys, it's James Donaldson's testimonial on Sunday, a player who signed for Hull Kingston Rovers back in 2015. He played for the Robins for 4 seasons. He made 79 appearances. I was a bit surprised by this, James. Although he made 79 appearances, he only had 27 starts. A bit of an impact player, of course, coming off the bench. Scored 15 tries. Of course, he's gone on to Leeds, Rhys, and his career has progressed, I'd almost say, from there. What does he mean to Leeds Rhinos supporters, and what do you think of him as a player?
I think the thing about Johno is you look at the size of him, and he isn't the biggest forward you'll ever see. But one thing you'll never see fault from Johno is effort. He will always put in 120% easily. We often laugh on our pod that he runs into contact head first. I don't know if he did this at KR, but he runs into contact head first, and he always wins a penalty or two for that, which probably is not advisable with the head contact rules these days. But, one thing you'll always guarantee for Johno is that he puts his heart into everything and he plays 120%. And I think there was an interview that James Dayton on BBC Radio Leeds did with him yesterday, and it was asked, what does Leeds Rhinos mean to you? And he got quite emotional and quite upset. And, that's the sort of player that you want playing for your club, the person that is literally, that gets emotional at that question, that bleeds that blue and amber, that badge that you wear. So I think that is Johno's best quality. I will admit, I don't think he's the best player we've had and the best player's position, but I always know that when Johno comes on the pitch, he'll give absolutely everything, which is a minimum requirement for a player playing for Rhinos. That's what I asked for. I
was going to say, Rhys, he made it, obviously, he made his name at the Bradford Bulls, but he's a Leeds supporter, isn't he?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, obviously he's a Cumbrian lad, isn't he? But I believe he is a Leeds fan.
James, I mean, your memories of James Donaldson, of course, he stayed with the club after we got relegated. He played in the Challenge Cup final, that one that we like to forget.
What happened in that one?
Forgotten.
I mean, and it was a bit funny how we departed the club as well at the time, wasn't it? It was a bit of a funny one how we left. But when you look back at him, you probably echo what Rhys says about his ability, but his effort, his enthusiasm, his willingness to go into the dangerous plays and almost disregard for his own safety to just try and cannonball his way through, put himself into a tackle he probably shouldn't do. It's hard to have any ill feelings towards him because he just represented Ilkington Rovers, with 100% passion. I suppose that is just him as a player. I mean, what are your memories of him, James?
Just really echoing what Rhys said. I think he's not the biggest player, but you just know that when he came on, he would put 110 to 120% into everything. And like Rhys said, the number of penalties he would get just because the way he just charges into with no thoughts or concerns about his own well-being. He just charges in, and you can guarantee 2 or 3 penalties a game that he would get just from performing like that. Yeah, always solid. Always put the effort in. And I must admit, when he did leave the club, I was very surprised because I think he was the sort of player that at the time Rovers needed. He was. I think we'd had a lot of journeymen coming through, and he was one of those players who you could tell. He just put the effort in, and that's what we needed. And I was actually gutted when he actually left. And I think it was Tim Sheens, wasn't it, who sort of let him go. So when he eventually so there was a bit of a time lag, wasn't there, before he left after leaving Rovers to sign for Leeds? I think he didn't sign him as on a trial basis.
He was on trial for pretty much the most.
Yeah, then he sort of
and again, it was his effort that got him a contract.
Yeah, and he signed up, and then obviously he won the Challenge Cup with you in 2020 against Salford at Wembley. And I thought, if one guy deserves a medal, it's Johno, just for his sheer enthusiasm and what he brings to a team, and he's a sort of player. I think if you ask, I'd say if you ask most Rovers fans, they'd probably say the same thing. Always 100% effort. Never, always going head first in, just putting that effort in. Which, like I say, all we can ask for players.
Yeah, and there's no doubt when he goes over to the Rovers fans on Sunday, he'll get a warm round of applause and an appreciation of his time at the club. And he's, I think it's fair to say he's not one of them players who trees, but actually them players are the ones who go under the radar. And actually, when you look back, you go, do you know what? I wish we had a few more James Donaldsons, because if we did, Rovers in particular probably wouldn't have been suffering as much as we have done over a few years. So it's the game needs Dono, don't they? They need more Donos because it's them who allow some of the other players to do what they need to do. Rowan Smith, Rhys, has named his 21-man squad ahead of Sunday's game already. He's gone super early.
Super useful for today though, because I can actually talk to you quite accurately.
Yeah. So there's a host of players missing as well, Rhys, but it looks like you're going to get the first sight of Brodie Croft, Andy Ackers, Lachie Miller, Matt Frawley, Harry Newman, Rhys Martin. Some players who are missing: Tom Holroyd, James Bentley, Sam Lucioni, James McDonnell. What was it? Momorowski?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that he's planned a holiday back to Australia in the middle of pre-season. Tell me about that.
Now, don't read too much into that. Like a couple of Rhinos fans have done. No, it's at the time Momorowski had another year left on his contract at Sydney Roosters. So when he's planning his future and future events, the Leeds Rhinos contract wasn't at the table. Obviously, Leeds Rhinos are coming at the end of last season, so he wasn't at the end of contract. And it was obviously part of the agreement that when we signed him that he was allowed to go back for stuff that he had planned. So it was planned leave. He's coming back to training next week. It's not ideal, but it still means that we've got an out-and-out centre and a really experienced centre, NRL centre as well. So, look, it's not ideal, but don't read too much into it. It's all planned.
No, but the 21-man squad, Rhys, it's more akin to a starting Super League side, isn't it? You're probably getting an indication of where Rowan Smith is gonna the direction of travel for him in terms of squad selection for that first game of the season.
Yeah, I mean we've had 2 pre-season friendlies because obviously we had the Boxing Day game, and in that one it was a bit of a mix of starters and at the start, and then the kids phased in later on. To be honest, the kids ran away with it in the end. And then at Bulls last week, it was very much kids plus a couple of first teamers that didn't get minutes on Boxing Day. So to this game on Sunday, whilst also being important for Johno's testimonial, I think from a fan perspective, it's the first time we'll actually see that new spine. You know, we've seen Miller play, we've seen Frawley play, but we haven't, and Ackers play, but we haven't seen them play together as a spine. You know, it's a completely new spine for us. So that's really exciting to see. And yeah, it's interesting to see the new structures in play. We saw a bit of it at Wakefield when the team were on the field, particularly more in the second half, because we were fanning about doing short kickoffs in the first half, which cost us 16 points, which I hope never to see. Eddie knows it's a big bugbear of mine. But yeah, I think from my perspective, I want to see structure. I want to see that new spine linking in with Cam Smith in that ball playing 13 role. But like I said, I've still got a little bit of fear. Not fear, it might not be fear just yet, but I am a bit concerned at how strong we are up the middle and prop when, again, we are without Holroyd and Lasone and Hudson in the lead up to the game. But it gives Tom Nicholson-Morton a chance. You know, we spoke to him yesterday. He had a great loan at Keighley towards the end of the season last year, made his debut against Cass. It gives players like that an opportunity to put their name on the shirt in round one.
Yeah, we've not seen the whole KR squad yet. That's not being released, but we have got some early team news. Jez Litton, he's definitely going to feature. He didn't play against Sheffield Eagles. Many people thought he wouldn't feature in pre-season at all due to injury, but Willie Peters has said that he's been training well and he'll be ready to play. He's only going to be spelled once, so he's going to start the second half. He's already revealed that. Matty Parcell, we're not sure whether he's going to line up on Sunday or not. He's expecting a young one. His missus is pregnant, so it's touch and go whether he's going to play or not on Sunday. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Of course, we've got Rhys Butterworth, who we signed last season. He played against Sheffield. He did okay. He can fill in that hooker. Jesse Sue. He was another player not expected to feature in pre-season, but he's one who's been training really well. Willie Peters said that he will feature against the Leeds Rhinos only for one stint. So it'd be interesting to see, James, how many minutes we do get out of him, whether it's a 20, 25-minute spell. Some players who won't feature: Sam Luckley, injured. 𝗀𝗲𝗄𝗏, he's injured as well. He's having hamstring issues. And Joe Burgess, I mean, he missed a big chunk of pre-season in between his suspension with Salford and then signing for the Robins. I think he missed a whole month of pre-season. So he's not playing against Leeds Rhinos. James, we're expecting we're expecting a stronger lineup against the Leeds Rhinos, and it'll be telling to see who does line up, because what Willie Peters has done, James, is he's already stated that he's putting players in different positions on purpose. So the lineup we see, we might see a few people playing out of position because he's testing them. And I suppose the only thing is, James, as well, in between the game on Sunday against Leeds, you've still got another, 2 weeks before the first game of the season. So the merits of playing your first team in that game and then having a 10, 12, 13-day stint between your next game, there's probably not a lot of merit in it.
No, and I think that's probably before last Sunday. I think I was quite surprised when how he picked such a youthful squad. Maybe I was expecting that Sheffield game, a few more first teamers, give them 40 minutes, bring the kids on second half, and then play more of them in the Leeds game, and then to build up for the derby. So yeah, it doesn't really give them a lot of preparation going into that derby game, does it? As I said before at the beginning of the cast, it's the important thing, as long as they don't get any injuries, that's all that matters really. It's just blowing the cobwebs out really, isn't it? And just trying to get some new structures in place, etc. Just seeing how players go in different places. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see who he does play and if he does, how much he does swap around.
Yeah, I mean, Rhys, pre-season, it's not something you really enjoy, is it? It's just because
this one's felt longer than ever. By the way, this felt like the longest pre-season for a while. Maybe because the previous year we had the World Cup and therefore it was a bit shorter. But it has felt a really long pre-season. I don't know what it's felt for you guys as fans, but I am.
Yeah, it's funny, Rhys, because we was talking on the last podcast. I was talking about how actually it was good to have a bit of a longer pre-season because it had been such a frantic, hectic season for the Robins that actually to take stock of where we are, there'd be so much went on in 2023 for Hull Kingston Rovers. A bit of a lull helped. For me, though, pre-season just ends up throwing up more questions than answers. You know, there's question marks over everything. You know, there's so much skepticism. There's so many. You've got no real clear sight of where we might be for that first game. And yeah, don't get me wrong, it's just great to be watching rugby league again and being in the stadium. And no doubt there'll be a good crowd on Sunday, Rhys, for James Donaldson's testimonial and to. You know, I reckon it'll be pushing on at least 8, maybe 10,000. Maybe, do you reckon?
Well, we've got just under 10 on Boxing Day, so I would hope the same for Dono as his testimonial game on a Sunday, good time. So I would hope for the same. Yeah,
and James, it's like I say, as much as pre-season throws up lots of questions and doubt and hope and you know everything, it is just good to be back watching rugby league again and actually a game where there's nothing riding on it as well. You're not watching it biting your fingernails. You're just able to go away at the end of the game and go, yeah, shrug your shoulders and go, that it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I say, like we said, it was a long pre-season. But yeah, it is good to get back, and it was quite interesting that Rovers seemed probably one of the few last teams to be off the starting blocks in terms of playing the pre-seasons. But then also surprised that Sunday's Sheffield's first game as well. So maybe that's the way they're going. I think because Leeds played Wakefield on Boxing Day, just probably extends that pre-season bit as well, and feeling as though the other teams have got a run on you. But like I say, then there's a month off between them and playing on Sunday. But yeah, the season will soon be around, and the nerves will kick in again.
Yeah, Rhys, in 2024, you are going to be able to watch more Super League rugby league than you've ever watched in your life. A new streaming platform has been launched by Super League, which is being backed up by Sky Sports' own streaming platform. I think the first 2 rounds of Super League are going to be aired on Sky Sports. What's your thoughts on the new deal?
I think it's brilliant, to be honest. You know, I think we talk about wanting to market our game, and I think the best way to do that is to show every single bit of rugby league that's played and there's live. And as a fan, I think it's great because when Leeds aren't playing, it means I can sit in here, and when I'm playing Foot Manager, I can watch rugby league as well at the same time. And you know, I think it's a fantastic deal. I think if you don't have Sky Sports, I think it was £100 for the whole thing, which I think is incredible value. I pay £130 for the NFL for less games. It's probably more games, to be fair, but I pay similar for the NFL. But I think all this is signs of IMG now starting to have its effect on the long run. We've got a much better fantasy Super League coming, hopefully. And hopefully you've seen the teasers of the players reacting to their stats. The branding's much better. The videos for each team that Sky Sports have been releasing, that Betfred Super League have been releasing this week. Everything just feels so much more professional, even going to the fact there was billboards with players on it. And I know that sounds extremely sad, but it's something that's so simple and easy. But yet we've never had a full billboard in Leeds advertising the start of Super League, and it's got Harry Newman all over it, and it's fantastic. So I think all of these things are all steps in the right direction for the game, and I think clubs are moving that way forward as well. I know we can take the mick a little bit, but I know you've got a new TV screen at Craven Park, you've got a new website. All those things are all happening at all different clubs because they're all getting pushed by each other because of IMG. And if you don't want to pay the money, as Bazza says in the comments, just get a dodgy Fire Stick. It works the same.
Yeah, well, yeah, I was going to say it's great news for anybody who's got one, because if all games are going to be streamed, you've got every chance of being able to watch one. I mean, I think some things have been missing the detail. I mean, if you've got Sky and you pay your subscription, you benefit massively now, because if you've got a Sky Sports subscription, you will be able to watch every Super League game. Now, in the detail, I think, is it 4 games every week will be streamed live, and then
so that's Super League commercial. So my understanding is that the Sky Sports will have everything up to round 15, all 6 games, and then on their own platform, because you have a Sky Sports subscription, be able to get all the others. On Super League commercial, I believe 2 will be delayed because Sky Sports have unique rights for that.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
And also, if you've got a season ticket for a club,
you get a discount.
You get a discount, and I think it's £99 for the season. If you don't have Sky and you want to subscribe to the Super League Plus streaming platform, and you want to watch every Super League game, it'll cost you £99. I tell you what, it's good value for money. And even if you don't want to subscribe to anything, I'm just reading here. It's £6.99 if you purchase before the day of the game to watch one game, and on the day of the game, it's £9.99. So a tenner to watch a game. And if you purchase it the day before, it's £6.99. I mean, that's outstanding value, I think. If it's one of your teams, and for whatever reason, for me, if you can't get to Kingston Rovers, I don't have Sky, I don't have these Super League Plus, but I want to watch the game, and I'd buy it the day, £6.99. It's outstanding value, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I think what's not being made, what I'm surprised that's not being made more of, is the fact now, though, is that there's going to be a video referee race at every single game.
Yeah, exactly, and that's one thing. I think also Sky Sports are producing all of this content, and then they've then sold that rights out to the BBC. So it doesn't cost the BBC to make that, because Sky Sports film it all, and BBC then are paying to put those games on free-to-air TV more than we had with Channel 4. So, that's all this part of the deal. It's all starting to add up a bit more. There's now a collective social media thing that all the clubs can use and instantly have clips from games. So, I mean, rugby league, someone on our podcast said, it's probably the most clippable sport you can put out there. And now that all the clubs will have access to a central pool of all these clips, all these big tackles, all these tries in the corner, that every week we go, that happens in rugby league every week. We can put those clips out, and the clubs can do that straight away now. So all this thing is just evidence of positives for me. I don't think there's any negatives, really, of what we've seen.
Yeah, James, you looking forward to the new enhanced expanded coverage of Super League in 2024?
I am, yeah. I think for me the main point, as you just touched on, Chris, is this, the fact there's a video ref at each game now. And I know we sort of we call the video ref every week, etc., and they don't get everything right. But for me, actually, it makes it more of a level playing field. I think you have a lot of teams who are on Sky on a regular basis get the benefit of the video ref, etc. Other teams are not on as often, not getting that benefit. Now everybody's getting it, but as you said, it's about exposing the game. I think I'm particularly excited about the free-to-air stuff that's going to come on, because I think that's the streaming service is great. People are they're having to pay to watch that. But we just saw, I think, the last couple of seasons with the step change that Channel 4 brought to the coverage, and I think the audience figures that they were getting for watching games, on a Saturday lunchtime. If we can replicate on the BBC, which is, chances are we'll probably get even more, because they get the bigger figures from when the Challenge Cup's on as well. Anyway, again, that will all enhance the game and just help build that momentum behind it, and just help raise the profile of the game even more.
Yeah. Fundamentally, if you want to watch Super League and you absolutely love the game and you want to watch as many games as you can, it's very affordable in 2024. And anyone who says it's expensive or difficult, I can't comprehend that, because it's when it's laid out, and especially if you've got a season ticket for a club, it's even more affordable. So for me, it's a massive plus. And to be fair, all I would say is it's not groundbreaking. All it's doing is bringing us up to a level of many other sports. So we've been lagging behind for a long time. We're only doing what everybody else is doing. So thank God we are, because it's been a long time coming. Rhys, we've just got a few minutes. Hull Kingston Rovers in 2024. It's always good to get a neutral opinion. We've got a brand new tipping league specifically for Hull Kingston Rovers launching on the Robin Pod this season that Rhys is going to be part of. What's your thoughts on Hull Kingston Rovers in 2024?
So I will admit I do have a bit of a soft spot for KR. It's not because I'm saying this, because I'm on a Red Robin. My dad went to Trinity House School in Hull, and his soft spot was KR. Still a Leeds fan, was born in Leeds. But I've done a preliminary table today, and I've got you exactly where you were last year, which was 4th.
Yeah.
I think you've made interesting changes in the off season. Obviously, in both on the pitch and in the coaching staff. So I think that'll be interesting to see what happens from that perspective. But one thing I just really noticed when I looked at some of the data from last year, which is because I do that because I'm boring. Like that.
Oh, you've updated it now, Rhys, because there was a spell last season where it wasn't.
Well, no, it's 𝗕𝗂𝗃𝗍𝗏's name that was the problem with that. And I have updated it. I got behind. But yeah, 𝗕𝗂𝗃𝗍𝗏's name was screwing it all up. But in the top 10 try scorers in Super League last year, Wigan had 4 of them. There wasn't anyone from KR or Leeds in that top 10. And I think if somewhere where KR need to hopefully improve is to have that try scoring machine, which may work because Tyrone May got the 3rd highest assist last year. So you've brought in one of the highest assisting halfbacks or highest assisting players in Super League. So I think if KR can really nail that fluidity through Tyrone May and create your wingers opportunities to score those tries week in, week out, then I think 4th is really, really realistic. I was with Matt Shaw yesterday, and he was very, very positive about the pre-season training camp that he saw. Maybe that's because, I don't know if they paid for it or if they flew him out there. I'm not quite sure. But he was very, very positive about what he saw in that pre-season training camp away abroad. So I think KR are solid favourites for 4th. And if it makes you happy, I've put Hull FC 11th. That's where I put them at the moment.
That high?
High.
Yeah. Unfortunately, London are in the league, and I'm not sure they'll pull as many trees as they did when they last went down, unfortunately.
James, it's an interesting point, isn't it? That most teams who succeed and do well, Lee last season had Josh Charnley, Wigan had Miscus. You need an out-and-out try scorer, don't you? Yeah, and
you do.
And for whatever reason, Hull Kingston Rovers at the moment don't seem to have one.
No. You also need a goal kicker as well, which is not really having apart from Schneider.
Yeah.
You do. And if we can get somebody, 2 or 3 players who can get about 15, over 15 tries a season, up to 20, or even more, then that's what we need.
I think if I look back to 2022, I mean, we were second bottom when we got the grand final. I think that year Ash Hanley had about 25 tries, and I think if you're always going to make those grand finals, I think you've always got someone that's at least a 20 tries a year. Obviously, Catalan last year had Tom Johnston as their person that was bringing it forward. Lee did so well. I mean, Josh Charnley, even Tom Briscoe got 14 tries last year at Lee. So I think if you're going to be in that final 4, if not the grand final, I think you just have to have someone that reliably, week in, week out, is odds on to score a try. Yeah.
And James, I mean, it's funny because Willie Peters, more comments that he made today, just before we came on the podcast, was speaking to BBC Radio Homicide. He said that Tom Davies is definitely someone that they're looking at in 2025, but the signing of a new winger is dependent on what Ryan Hall says he wants to do. Willie Peters has stopped looking at Ryan Hall as a number, and he's just started looking at him in terms of what he does in training and what he does on the pitch. If Ryan Hall decides he wants to stay on, it seems like he's almost got a contract waiting for him. Ryan Hall, though, isn't probably going to be the 2022 tries a season player, is he? Because he does so much work in back play in terms of bringing meter, making meters. So you look across to the other wing, Joe Burgess. He's probably the most likely player to score to start over on the right wing. He only scored, I think, 4 tries for Salford last season, off the top of my head. I don't know. Is 𝗬𝗂𝗃𝗍𝗏 at fullback going to be the try scorer? When you start trying to pinpoint players who are going to be that player, who knows? Maybe you're right, James. Maybe we need actually, instead of 1 player scoring 22, we need 4 players scoring 12.
Yeah, but I think didn't 𝗬𝗂𝗃𝗍𝗏 have I think he had a quite good strike rate when he played at Warrington, didn't he? I think he got about 11 tries in about 15 games or something like that. But then I think he played at
You're going a long way back,
he?
James. There, you're going a long way.
It's not that far back. Not as far back as the 1980s I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, Dave Bishop and his to be fair, yeah. Well, that's all to be forthcoming, isn't it? Rhys, what your expectations on Sunday? Just a decent 8 out, no injuries.
Decent hit out, exactly that. Decent hit out, no injuries. I'll try not be stressed. I'll try take it as a pre-season game. I have to remind myself quite regularly during pre-season that it is pre-season. So yeah, I think the things I want to see is that spine playing as we want it to play, have that better attacking structure, which wasn't evident last year. Are probably the two things I really want to see. And it's the first of 4 meetings for us this year, isn't it? Because we've got 3 in the league, and this is a pre-season. If we get each other in the cup, it could be a 5th. It could be quite a regular fixture this year, so we might have to get used to this pod.
yeah. Headingley, not it's not a stadium that's unfamiliar to Hull Kingston supporters, as it seems to. Many journeys to Headingley over the years. James, what are your expectations for Sunday or hopes?
The hopes game, just a good hit out and no injuries from either team, really. Just blow the cobwebs away, get some effort into the legs, etc. And just good. Hopefully, it's a good, entertaining game for everybody.
I did forget one thing, by the way. I want James Donaldson to get about 5 penalties for a high tackle on him. That's one. And if he doesn't get an opportunity to kick a conversion, I'll be very upset.
Oh, you're going for the old football testimonial game where they get a penalty. So you want him to
when we're 30 points up, Johno, with like 20 minutes to go, let's just let Donaldson have a kick.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised though if he goes off after 10 minutes because he's got a HIA because he's putting himself into that.
But if he won the penalty, he's done his thing.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see how we go. But a huge thanks to Rhys and James for joining me on this week's Robin Pod. Of course, we travel to Headingley on Sunday for our second pre-season friendly. If you're going to the game on Sunday, be loud, be proud, and remember to back the boys. But for now, live, love, and laugh and be happy. Cheers, lads. Thanks for that.
No, thanks.